Sorry. And overall, it's really kind of thanking you for hanging around in this reform process in aged care where hospitality hasn't been so elevated until now, but really now is our time to shine. And I think I want to thank you before we really begin for making the time today, but also just for hanging around in aged care and serving as you have over the last few very difficult years. So I thought I'm going to share screen and bear with me for a second. Got a dog and a daughter that's just arrived home, so hopefully not going to be too interruptive. Bear with me. Okay. So 2 screens always confuses me. Okay, so I thought I'll start sort of this session with just a really brief story, and I have met some of you before, but for those who I haven't, it's a little bit of a story behind Lantern. So I've been a dietitian for 25 years, but I will not take you back that far. But we will rewind 13 years ago. So back in 2012, I met a fellow called Charlie. He's a 91 at that point. He was a 91-year-old fellow who just done his first skydive to celebrate his 90th birthday the year before. And Charlie kind of really was the epitome at that point of really showing his independence, and he had an appetite for risk and a zest for life. Where I met Charlie was in an aged care home, so a year later. So I had been referred to him as a dietitian. Sadly, he'd been wasting away in his aged care room. And at that point, he was around 40 kilos. He was in quite active weight loss. And during that visit, he had also kind of quite a lot of clinical things going on. But during that visit, one thing I did notice in chatting to him, I opened up his bar fridge in his room during our discussion and noticed that he had a 6-pack of eggs in his fridge, which was at that point, a little bit strange because he had no way to cook. But after a little conversation with Charlie, he revealed sort of a little bit of a secret. He closed his doors in hushed tones. He sort of then opened up a drawer and pulled out this little gauze. It was a wound gauze, sort of a little square that had strings attached to each corner. And he proceeded to tell me that in the mornings he would take an egg and put it in that gauze and lower it slowly into his room's kettle and to prepare it and prepare an egg just the way he liked it. So I think one of the things that we know, sort of Charlie in himself, in his act of doing that, wasn't so much cooking, breakfast, although eggs have been something that, we've all spoken about over the years, and, the challenges of eggs in aged care. But he was in fact just reclaiming his agency and his dignity. So it's a small act, and Charlie, it was sort of a little act of rebellion for Charlie. But I think really the message is sort of when the system at that point didn't allow sort of choice, what we see, and we've all experienced it, is residents find a way anyway. So, sometimes the way they get in and around sort of that mitigation that we've been having to do as hospitality professionals in mitigating risk is they will take on other risk in other ways, and often in hidden ways. So it reminded me kind of at that point, sort of, a truth that we've always known is that sort of hospitality is care. And I think kind of there's many different stories like Charlie's that really sparked why I started Lantern Alliance back 12 years ago, really with the remit to sort of improve quality of life and navigate that complexity with industry, with all of the different players in industry, including some of the familiar faces here today, to really unpack and really work forward. So today, I think we're really standing on pretty much an edge of change. We have had a little bit of an extension in the deadline times for the next step in reform. Was going to be July 1, where we have the Aged Care Act coming in and the new strengthened quality standards. But we're really kind of at an exciting part of the road, a fork in the road where I can see that our role in the food space is really going to be honoured more than it has before. And I see it as a pretty exciting time for all of us. So today, the key point I'm really wanting to kind of make from the information and the learnings over the years that we've had at Lantern Alliance is that, quality in aged care, which is, we've been unpacking that quality piece for quite some time. It really starts at the table. And I want to thank Kathy and Lisa and IHHC for really having preparing this space that we can kind of have a bit of a flyover and discussion around food nutrition. So for those of you I haven't personally met, I founded Lantern Alliance, as I said, sort of just soon after meeting Charlie and a whole range of other residents, which is, number one, its remit has been, it's a community of practice, a national community of practice focused on improving quality of life of older adults through the joy of good food. The second remit of Lantern has always been sort of action-based research. And so some of the learnings from our monthly community of practice meetings have gone into some of that research, including some, I've done a PhD in the last decade, which has kind of brought some of the learnings that we've unpacked into a way that we can then develop tools that are practical and pragmatic for aged care homes to be using to raise the bar around food and nutrition. So the third remit with Lantern has been very much then demonstrating how those tools work and showing that it's not just like a hunch that, when we get food, nutrition, dining experience right, we get improved quality care. We've measured it. But I think innately everyone in this virtual room today knows it. We come from that hospitality perspective that we know that, we're getting this right, and it's something that when we nail it, we get better health outcomes. So I've put together some slides today, but I would like to say at the outset, I think I can see the count at the moment. The group it's getting larger, but I would like to kind of have the space to be able to have some interaction, and whether that be that, during the session, if there are burning questions, to get comfortable with your chat button so that we can really make this session as practical or as relevant to you with this current sort of mix of challenges we currently are facing in mind. Please get comfortable with your chat button, and we can kind of guard some time at the end to unpack that. If there's any burning questions during the session, then I'm sure Lisa and Kathy will be keeping an eye on the chat, and will verbalize if we need to sort of pause and unpack something a little bit more. But yeah, so I think before we jump into these slides then, as hospitality and healthcare professionals, it's really not going to take too much of effort on my part to sort of say that, this quality in aged care starts at the table, where like food's not just a side dish. In aged care, it's really the main driver of health, happiness, well-being, and quality outcomes. So anyone who I've spoken to before in the last few years will know, I guess the mantra is, if we get food and nutrition right, so that foundation, it's such a foundation of care, then many of the woes that we kind of struggle with in aged care fall into place. So we know that is the case. There's many things that if we just put our priorities in this space, we see that pressures are removed across some of the areas that, are really most challenging, including some of those clinical areas. When it comes to kind of aged care, and again, within a group of friends, and, we're all singing from the same hymn book, I think kind of we can quite confidently say in aged care, a well-set table can be just as powerful as a well-written care plan. And really, when we get sort of meal times right, then lives can improve. So it's something that, is worthy, and exactly kind of the journey of the aged care reform process is now pointing towards what we've known for years to be very important. So I'm going to jump into some of the key messages. So today, I'm going to probably skirt on these points throughout, but some of the key messages include the importance of, I guess, food as care, which I've kind of alluded to in the last session, the last slide, because of course it is. It's important. It's central to well-being. We know that sort of, meals kind of elicit memories and provide identity and, serve as identity and comfort for residents. And, it's time that we're not treating them as extras or as a support service, but as the, a main process. We're going to touch on sort of compliance and some of the strengthened aged care quality standards. But for any of those of you who know me, you know that Lantern Alliance is beyond, it's looking beyond compliance. We know that compliance is obviously important, but that doesn't always necessitate or actually meet a resident's actual needs or improve quality of life. We kind of, you want to meet compliance, but actually do things that are actually providing that meaning and quality of life for a resident. We want to also look at, and I will touch on the importance of measuring what matters. So where kind of rubber hits the road and the learnings that we've been exploring and implementing in research over the last decade have all been around how do we measure what matters in this food, nutrition, dining experience space to then be able to raise the bar and guide homes in a more targeted way to have better outcomes. And then if we've got time at the end, I can share some tools that from a Lantern perspective that we've developed and have been demonstrating, have led to transformation. I can share a case study at the end, again, if we've got time. But today's session is not about sort of showcasing Lantern or, in terms of, racking up business. It's actually just showing and giving you as hospitality leaders confidence to be holding in your space the importance of what you're doing. And I'm sure you've got strategies that you're already putting in place, but if this gives more impetus to go back to your organizations to, I guess, shout out this message a little bit louder and be confident in it, then I think the session's been worthwhile. I'm just using examples of Lantern because it's the space that I know. So what we will also, I will hopefully also impart during the session is, the optimistic view that I think we all need to take is, we're moving into times that actually are going to be putting what we've been talking about for a long time in spotlight. So I guess we've mentioned the importance, and looking at food as care. So this is really the first key theme. It's the foundation of many of the clinical outcomes, and we know that also sort of extending on that food and getting adequate food is a fundamental human rights, which is something that is now really enshrined within the Aged Care Act as something that kind of backs our message even further. But that aside, What we also know outside of food being as care is food is something that, the community use as the barometer to judge an aged care service. So I've been saying this for a number of years, even during the Royal Commission, that when we, get food right, people are judging a home's performance, clinical and overall performance, on whether the food is good or bad. So if it's an important space to be getting right. What we know is with the Royal Commission, so we've obviously lots of us have been here well before the Royal Commission happened. I'm trying to remember, it's certainly sort of that 2018 and before. But what we found with the Royal Commission, and I guess gave evidence to our space being important, is the first of the top 4 immediate priorities from the Royal Commission was food and nutrition. So I think that in itself is, it's an important space. What we also know, sorry, just getting my slides right. We've had other changes that have happened over the last few years that kind of, we're having to grapple with. We've had a different funding model. We've got the new strengthened aged care quality standards starting in November. We've got the Aged Care Act, which kind of is the overarching kind of, is really kind of guiding the approach that we take. All of these things are raising community expectations around, how food is served in aged care. So we've got this puts pressure. And I think if we're looking at, the positive and negative side, if we're taking the negative approach, this puts a lot of pressure on our teams to be performing, that we're in the spotlight more. But I think if we take more of a positive approach, there's a hell of a lot of opportunity where we're currently facing and certainly moving over the next 6 months. So part of those opportunities, what we're moving from is being a support service to a core care function where we're part of that sort of compliance framework. It's going to be looked at specifically. It's something that, we can kind of elevate what we do, and it fits into kind of the scheme that is certainly being looked at from a compliance point of view. So a lot more traction than ever before that we have, and I guess it's using that traction to kind of show that, when we get this right, we're actually our role can actually be beneficial across the whole the whole aged care team, particularly those in clinical care where, we get that food right, it affects care hours. We know that a nourished resident takes 2 to 3 times less care hours to be cared for. When we, have less complaints, we're able to channel time towards quality improvement activities rather than reactive services. So there's lots of different reasons why it's a great opportunity for us. So I think kind of just as a quick overview, we've been at Lantern over the last 6 months, been running a monthly aged care quality standard symposium. So the reason behind that is it's been stepping through each standard. So yes, we've got our own defined quality standard 6 food and nutrition coming up. But what we've been trying to really highlight, as has been with the old standards, is that food and nutrition is absolutely applicable across all of the standards, not just the new quality standard 6. So each month has been devoted to one standard with a range of industry panel members, but just unpacking that from a food, nutrition and dining experience perspective. So whether it be quality standard 1, the person, or quality standard 2, the organisation, through to quality standard 7, the residential community, where it's all around home and belonging. Hospitality and food, nutrition, dining experience link, and it's interwoven through all of those standards. So if you haven't been part of that live discussion, then we are aiming by the end of the month to have all of those sessions kind of up and available for organizations to be viewing, because there's a lot of just practical. It's all about kind of what are things that we can do that are practical, and examples from organizations sort of that are shared to help each other. We're all in this together to help each other raise the bar and not only meet compliance but exceed it by far. So the quality standards are, yeah, certainly have put us on the map more seriously, but it's just, I guess, driving home the point that with we're not just quality standard 6, and we're not just locked into that, where we are kind of the things that we do absolutely translate across the standards. And when we invest and we put efforts into improving that space, there should be uplift across all of the standards. So I think the other thing that I would like to just highlight too is, the overarching, over the top of the quality standards with the legislation of Aged Care Act, coming from a human rights approach, hospitality, it's around sort of, recognizing resident voice and getting that kind of engagement feedback, kind of customer service, to really be able to sort of serve our residents well. We're already positioned as hospitality experts to do that. So before we jump into some examples and, really hopefully to trigger a little bit of discussion, and I'd be keen, as I'm presenting, if there are things that sort of spring to mind, to jot them down, or to get, as I said, familiar with your chat button so that we can sort of unpack them a little bit. But, just to recap sort of the three things, and before we bring examples in, Lantern's just around community of practice, so really inviting all the diverse voices, so hospitality, but also clinical and aged care CEOs and peak bodies and Department of Health and the Commission, all of the diverse voices together, because what we know is when we put our voices together and we collaborate, that's what ignites innovation. Secondly, with the action-based research, what we know and what we have seen is when we get the evidence behind those ideas and that innovation, that's what really fuels progress. And thirdly, when we go out with and partner with aged care organisations, then really those tools are what then really translates to impact, of all the residents, across the country for the residents that we serve. So there's lots of, benefits from really this collaboration. And again, why I'm welcoming being part of a session with IHHC today. So I will go through, some of the examples and tools. But I think what I might quickly break just to check in is if there are any questions before we start going into some of the practical and, tools that have been used and some of the results that are happening with those tools. So I know it's brave to go out there, and we've got, everyone's on mute, but any questions? I can't see anything on the chat, but just before I feel like otherwise I'm very much didactic. I'm talking to a camera, but yeah, so I'll move on if I don't see anything happening in the chat. So the next theme is just looking at, I guess, the point which I made at the start, which is the importance of really measuring it so you can manage it, because we know that if we can't measure it, it's really hard to manage or know where we're at and where we need to go. I think if we reflect on from a clinical perspective, aged care historically, where we've got sort of that extra focus on the clinical services, we've normalized measuring things like resident blood pressure daily. So that's completely normal, and we prioritize measuring blood pressure daily. But how often as an organization are we measuring whether food brings joy? Is it something that, have we prioritized it enough? I think over the last decade, it's become more of a priority, but it's just something to kind of bring back. And, one question I ask aged care executives, and potentially for you to go back to your own organizations and ask, is really, within your clinical team, what are the current measures of success when it comes to our food, nutrition, and dining experience? What are we using as our metrics? A common response I get when I ask that within an organization is, it might sort of reflect back onto, we're, every quarter we're reporting the quality indicators. So, the might be unplanned weight loss and falls and pressure injuries. It might be around, we're measuring food complaints. We're monitoring that component. I think kind of my concern with those as key metrics, and they're often the common metrics that are fed back to us when we're working with organizations, is kind of that's what's currently being monitored, is most of those metrics are lag metrics. So the horse is already bolted. So if residents are losing weight and we're having to report that back, that the event has happened, the damage has largely been done, and it's harder to kind of undo that when it's done. So what we really are looking for when we're talking around measuring it to manage it is proactive measures. So looking for those early signs, really early indicators that can kind of help to identify and allow us to act, and then continue to monitor and make sure that we're having impact across an organization. So that's with Lantern. We've looked across the whole sort of the food and nutrition system, and what we know across different aged care organizations and going across so many over the years is there's not one home that's exactly the same. There's not one dining area that's exactly the same as another. The resident population will be different from one organization to the other. The staff mix and the skill set of the staff will be different from one organization to the other. And the complexity that brings makes it hard for an organization often to measure and then be able to benchmark and sort of, particularly between sites within an organization, one home to another, to see how we're going. What we've been working at sort of and sort of demonstrating with the tools that we've been kind of creating is how within a framework you can actually measure some meaningful touch points. And what I mean by meaningful touch points, there's thousands of them across a home that really can help us indicate at a home how it's going in its own context, because what success is in a small home can often be quite different to what success looks like in a large home. But it allows us to kind of measure performance. So when we're looking at the system, we're looking at those thousands of touch points are looking across the whole, from paddock through to plate, through to the person that we're nourishing. So from, how food's procured, how it's transported into a site, how it's stored, how it's prepared within the kitchen. So the equipment in the kitchen and the skill of the staff in the kitchen, and the training of the staff in the kitchen, through to timing and how it's then transported into a dining area, through to all of the touch points that sort of then come in that dining room experience, which is, these are things that are going to be surfaced more with the Quality Standard 6. But, that dining experience, there's heaps of touch points within a dining room that, is the lighting right? Are the acoustics right? Have we set the tables? Are we communicating kind of a menu? Are our staff aware of what that menu is so that they can kind of share and sort of embellish what is being served to entice a resident? Are we monitoring food wastage at the end of a meal? Are we engaging with residents in a timely way when it comes to serving a meal and supporting them with that meal if they're needing support? Through to, we've come all the way from paddock through to plate, through to, does the resident have their dentures in? Are they able to swallow? Are they being given the right texture? Through to, are they able to be digesting that meal, to then the end outcome, dietitian background, are they nourished? So there's all of these little touch points, like links in a chain, that across one home, there are areas and links that absolutely are being nailed, but there's often, some weak links in the chain that are ending in a poor outcome at the end. And if we're not measuring those links, then we're getting poor outcomes without really being able to pinpoint root cause. And so that's why, that was a bit of a long-winded explanation, but there's lots of different measures that can help us predict poor outcomes and some of those lag metrics that we're having to report to the department. But, can we pick up those weak links early so that we're mitigating risk and improving the health and well-being of residents at the in their final years? So proactive approach and monitoring those proactive measures is absolutely something that we encourage and demonstrate. And again, I'm using my own examples because that's what I'm familiar with and our team are used to. But it's just getting you thinking as a team, are we picking up and looking at the things that actually could help mitigate? So I'm going to share, so that measuring, what matters and measuring those thousands of touch points, we do with the organisations we work with every 6 months. So it's with homes that we've been working with, it's going in and doing those same metrics really quickly. We will capture, on average around 5,500 data points every 6 months over a few years. And each 6 months, it's guiding kind of where are those weak links, where are those opportunities for uplift, and then, how are we seeing that translate in terms of outcomes, resident quality of life, overall kind of health outcomes, overall, expenditure, all of those things that translate to, are we getting success? So I'll put a little video on and hopefully you all can hear it. Just a quick summary of Epicure.
In the rapidly evolving landscape of aged care, one thing remains constant: the importance of quality food and nutrition for residents. At Lantern Alliance, we've engaged with hundreds of aged care CEOs and executives who have shared their challenges regarding nutrition and dining experience. Our years of extensive research and experience have proven that a comprehensive food, nutrition and dining experience program can lead to significant health and wellbeing improvements for residents while enhancing your organisation's performance and financial operations. For over a decade, Lantern Alliance has been at the forefront of reimagining aged care food, nutrition and dining experiences. Our evidence-based approach has been transforming the catering and dining services of aged care homes across Australia, resulting in healthier and more positive dining experiences for residents. Our clients have reported unprecedented reductions in resident malnutrition and reductions in reportable indicators such as falls, pressure injuries and hospital readmissions, along with substantial improvements in financial performance. In fact, their remarkable return on investment through the Lantern Alliance approach demonstrates the value of a well-implemented nutrition program. Implementing our program within your organisation will positively impact every aspect of your aged care operations, from clinical outcomes to catering excellence, star ratings and management cost centres. As Australian aged care quality standards evolve, we journey with you to meet and go beyond compliance with the standards. Providers who engage our services are navigating these changes with confidence and success. If you are striving for excellence in aged care food, nutrition and dining experience, contact Lantern Alliance. Let us illuminate your organisation's path to success with our expert advisory and support services. Visit lanternalliance.com.au to learn more and get in touch.
So Epicure is one way that we measure to manage. And one of the tools that we use within Epicure, that whole process every 6 months, is more of a kind of a consumer experience tool. So we have developed a process of capturing resident voice. And again, there are some familiar faces in the room who are part of the co-design of that process, which is Lantern Explore. So our consumer experience tool, Lantern Explore, was developed back in 2014, and we've been using it in the last decade, certainly, and it's one of our most powerful ways of getting a touch point and really taking the pulse on a resident population at this point in time to identify what is most meaningful for them around that food and nutrition experience. And the beauty of understanding what's important to your current resident population is, when there's, say, hundreds of things you could do for quality improvement at a site, if we've got a way to capture resident voice and understand what they're valuing most, then it allows us to channel specifically towards that, gives us evidence to sort of say this is what the residents are wanting, and allows us to be responsive. But it helps us, effectively put some blinkers on to be able to channel energy to where it's going to have the greatest uplift for a site. And that's one of the tools that kind of helps us get the results that we've been getting. So consumer experience, which, is very much aligned with the Aged Care Act. It's important that we have processes in place, whether it be through tools like Explore or through your own tools. It's, mechanisms to be able to not only capture and hear and listen to what residents are talking around, but to be able to say, what do we do with that? And then when we have done something with it, how much of an impact has it had? So, what we're seeing, and you're all familiar with the resident experience questions related to food that we have annually with the current process. So, do you like the food here? What we find when we're looking at the national data of that, do you like the food here at every site across the country, is when you're looking at the results, those results are not really correlating with some of the, clinical outcomes and the metrics that you would expect should link with nailing it in the food, nutrition and dining experience space. So I guess it's coming up with more meaningful ways for you as an organisation, at your organisations, to hear your residents and do something with that information and really partner with your residents. So from an Explore point of view, I'll share a little bit around how that works, but it's a conversation with residents. We end up when we go in on a 6-monthly basis, we'll typically chat with between 30 to 50% of the resident population. It's validated for residents up until mid-stage who are living with dementia, so mid-stage dementia. So it allows us to be able to kind of capture that resident voice and use that as really the weapon to kind of go, here, if you're gonna channel energy somewhere, here's where your best bet is. So here's a little bit about Explore. And again, I'm sharing examples from my own perspective, but it's really just to show you when you're getting you've got your own measures in place. There are really great uplifts, and I'll share a case study at the end around some of those uplifts.
We communicate through sharing stories and experiences. It's how we learn and unpack challenging things together. At Lantern, we know aged care food can be a challenging area. Meals can make or break a resident's day. And there are thousands of factors that can influence if a meal is enjoyed. For instance, are the lights on? Are the staff engaged? Does the resident have everything they need for an excellent mealtime experience? The Explore app is Lantern's consumer experience tool. It's an online mobile tool that captures resident, family and staff food stories around the mealtime experience. The Explore app very simply captures a person's observations, views and experiences, and most importantly, how they make sense of them. It captures the context of a mealtime experience through gathering both qualitative and quantitative data. This provides the ability to interact with the scale of numbers alongside the explanatory power of a narrative, creating rich data at scale. With Explore, thousands of people can share their food experiences across homes, organisations, the country and across the globe, with all data available in real time. It collects continuous data, like a journal, and allows large numbers of consumers to share stories related to the same questions at once. Lantern's Explore app is based on 3 key principles around the data. The first principle is self-interpretation. Explore places interpretation with the consumer sharing the story. This empowers the person to interpret and give meaning to their own story. And it's done by asking the participant to answer a range of quantitative questions related to the story they shared, allowing for more authentic interpretation, while avoiding others interpreting a person's story and adding their own cognitive and cultural biases. The power of self-interpretation prevents misinterpretation and bias, whilst empowering people to give meaning to their own story. This increases data validity and the ability to scale by decentralising story interpretation. The second principle is real-time feedback, and this can be seen as data flows in to Explore's SenseMaker platform. This means you can see the data instantly and act on it while it's still current, rather than waiting for months for it to appear in a report. The third principle is data access. Explore enables organisations to access their own data. Aged care communities can look at the patterns in the data together and decide on what actions to take. This empowers communities to remain in control over their narrative and what to do about it. It's clear traditional surveys lack the ability to gain new and powerful insights. They rely on external interpretation and take time to collate and respond. Whereas Lantern's Explore app unpacks ideas and complex information through the art of storytelling to provide powerful insights to act for aged care homes, organisations and the industry. To harness the power of food stories to measure and act on consumer experience across your organisation, contact us at lanternalliance.com.au.
Okay, so that's a couple of the tools that we use, and we frame them as the Explore and Epicure, we frame them as diagnostic tools. So they're, measuring the system, measuring some of those key points to allow us to see where those weak links in the chain might be within a home system. So that's kind of, one way of measuring to manage. It's then, that's all well and great, but, then it requires some action. It's identifying if we see a weak link, it's then, what are the things that we can put in place? Interventions, for want of a better word, to really be able to kind of target where those weak links are. And so some of the ways that, we've been addressing it, and again, it's just using Lantern as an example. It's looking for opportunities to provide, training to strengthen up a weak link, or programs or resources that really help to strengthen that up. And I think, ultimately what we've found in terms of most impact when it comes to, addressing kind of some weak links is one of the most powerful ways when it comes to training your team. And certainly we know there's a lot of turnover. It's like, how do we get impactful training and lessons for our team so that we can raise the bar? It's one of the most impactful ways is really immersing teams in experiences to be able to kind of firsthand experience something themselves. And probably one of the easiest, quickest lessons. And if you've got the ability to have staff that join in a dining experience occasionally to really feel from the perspective of a resident what the current dining experience feels, that in itself, without formal training, can be a very impactful, and a great start for an organization if you're looking for somewhere to start. Ways that we've brought kind of that immersion to life, if it's not literally immersing your staff in say a dining experience. Over the years, we've run a couple of social experiments. So it's not to stir industry up, but it's just to reflect some of the practices that we do see quite regularly. And often it's, the practices that we do see are not done intentionally. It's through just lack of training that they happen. So one of those social experiments I thought I'd play, and all of these videos, so particularly sort of the social experiments as a lesson, are on our website. But we did a social experiment last year, which was honing in on one of the things that we're seeing as a weak link regularly, which is that front of house service within the dining area. So, we've got great things happening within the kitchen, lots of energy and efforts being put in, but the meal transporting out into the dining room and at the dining room point, that touch point in the long chain, it's falling flat. And that's often just through, lack of hospitality training. So we did a bit of an experiment where we demonstrated, really brought people, unsuspecting community members in to a restaurant and gave them a bit of some of those aged care scenarios to capture their reactions, and sometimes a short little video to share with your staff around what it made people feel like is enough of a learning tool to get some conversations happening and act, and behaviors changing. So I'll quickly play that video.
Lantern Alliance invited unsuspecting guests to a restaurant for lunch. We slipped in some common aged care practices, being med rounds at mealtimes, a rushed meal service and poor hospitality skills, to capture their reactions.
Ooh. Ready for lunch today?
Yes.
Excellent.
What is this for?
Oh, darling, that's your clothing protector, remember?
Oh, okay. I don't really like this. It makes me feel like a baby.
There's your lunch, okay? I'll bring you some apple juice.
Okay.
How's your tofu?
Is that what it is?
I have some Movicol here for you, okay?
Oh, wonderful.
Please,
So Movicol, that's to help with your bowels, sweetie. I heard you've been having a bit of trouble with your bowels the other night. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can I eat while you do it?
Yeah, it's okay, but just give us a second.
Actually, I'm right-handed.
I need a fork.
Yeah. I don't get a fork. Could I have some cutlery, please?
I'd rather just eat the dessert now.
Would you?
Don't you think it's weird that the dessert's here already? It's always hard to undo Glad wrap, isn't it?
What is this? I have to do it myself?
Seems like it.
I was quite taken back, actually.
Disappointing?
Condescending's not the word, but weren't treated like we were equal human beings, equal adults.
Sort of a bit robotic, that sit down, eat your meal, here's your pills, here's your blood pressure.
and it was pushy. I just felt like it was all pushy and not really thinking about how I might feel.
And you need this because you've got this problem as well. And it's just very bang, 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 bang.
They were speaking down to us a little bit.
And that was kind of embarrassing, talking about my bowel movements at the dinner table.
The medic man comes in.
How are your bowels, honey?
Yeah, just share that with everybody. Well, probably not coming back to this place again, but it was interesting.
I think it just, overall, a lot of things would wreck my appetite if this happened regularly.
It would make you feel pretty despondent, I think, if that's what you had to face 3 times a day.
I am actually honored that I was treated that way because I got like a first-hand experience of how it makes you feel. And I am a big-time foodie. Like, food is something that's the best in my life, and that experience just shook me.
So this is the heart and soul of Lantern Alliance, to raise awareness and improve dining experience across aged care. We know improved dining experience improves residents' wellbeing, socialisation and overall quality of life for the residents we serve. A poor dining experience simply highlights a gap in staff training and an organisation not prioritising the vital role that meals play. Our team of dining specialists, chefs and dietitians have developed immersive training specifically for aged care to fill this gap, so that you can prioritise and empower your team to provide a dining experience that residents and ultimately everyone deserves.
So it doesn't take very much to shift our attitudes, and we're seeing that happen quite dramatically. You know, it's just reflecting that back to potentially care staff who haven't thought about, or they've just been following what they've been told. It's challenging that, and really that little piece, which actually can transform quite quickly, really does increase. It lifts that performance and really does justice to the efforts of the staff in the kitchen who have prepared wonderful meals. It's following through so that we're not dropping the ball at the point of service. So just moving into kind of, continuing sort of that training theme, what we're finding too across homes is, yes, consultants. So yeah, we're consultants. We can come in and say, yep, this would be great. This would be great. This would be great to raise the bar. But one of the most impactful ways that you're going to find sort of uplift across your home is, the answers often lie within your team. Your staff know the space better than most. They know what will work, what will fly, what won't. They know the residents best. It's how do you empower and engage your team to be actually coming up with and co-designing ideas that are going to work at the home, rather than over-relying on consultants. And so one of the ways that kind of we often kickstart that process within organisations is training up nutrition and dining champions. So what it is doing is giving a base foundation. It's not replacing, it's not setting up staff to, within the team to replace dietitians or replace speech pathologists or replace, other experts. It's actually empowering them with some base knowledge, but then to be able to kind of look for solutions that within the context of the home. And so I guess kind of champion training has been one of the most satisfying interventions when it comes to kind of the things that we get to do with organisations, because the ideas that come out of the room and then following months within a team are remarkable, and things that they're going to be creative, but they're more likely to fly if it's coming from your team and you're empowering and supporting your team to do that. So an example of the champion training, I've got sort of a quick video, and then I think we're going to jump over. So get some questions ready, but I'll jump over just to a reflection from one of the champion teams that we've trained up.
Things that I learned today is that nutrition and dining and the health of somebody, it comes back to the whole experience of not just, you know, what the food looks like on the plate, but how it's presented, you know, whether someone's telling you what you're having on the menu and giving you a relationship when you're eating, you know, talking about the food, not just pretending they're talking to somebody else while they're feeding you, actually joining you in that experience.
When I was a kid growing up, the dining room table was such an exciting place to be. We'd come at the end of the day and we'd download all the things we did in the day, what was the good news, the bad things that happened, and it was just a whole discussion, relationship building time. I can see that happening here within our facilities again if we took the time to sit down with our lovely residents and draw out some of those things. You know, what have you done today? What activities were you involved in? Tell me a little bit about, you know, how you grew up and who sat at your dinner table, and bringing those memories back out again. And I think it wouldn't take long. It'd only probably be 10, 15 minutes. We can have a really good, deep conversation with our residents over a meal.
Oh, I think it was just great that the whole company were able to get together and be able to create change that supports a person-centered care culture and really achieve our strategies that we have as an organisation that give us world-class dining experiences.
So I think kind of, you know, these are a few of opportunities, and again, some of the organizations that you're coming from may already have solutions in place, and keen to kind of hear those solutions. It's looking for kind of those opportunities to support the traditional catering team to then further uplift and make sure that, you know, really, regardless of our role, like within the champion program, we welcome any role, anyone who's got a passion for food, to put their hand up and be part of that program. So whether they're from the care staff team, or whether they're, you know, within management or within lifestyle, or we were in Wollongong in January and we had the lifestyle bus driver was part of the champion team, because that's, you know, we all play different parts and see different parts of a residence day that links to a better dining experience. We're seeing, you know, we all play a part as a team, not sort of having, you know, taking away that siloed approach. So I thought I would end and stop my kind of one-way chat here by just sharing, you know, an example of a home that we've been working with over the last 3 and a bit years, actually, with some of our tools, but just to show some of the examples of what that then has translated to for them. We've worked with over 100 homes with Epicure. So this is just an example, and one that you know, is showing some great results. So for this example home, they're a 90-bed aged care home up in the Whitsundays. Tough place to be, but a great place every 6 months to visit. This home has 5 dining areas and a cafe. And ultimately, when we've gone in with more the diagnostic tools, so Epicure Explore, what surfaced at this home was skill set within the kitchen for this home specifically, and also the care staff, like, you know, creating kind of champions, so that over time, they're really driving kind of that change from within. You know, it's a sustainable approach. So what's happened with this home, if we're looking at the overall dining experience, so we measure every dining room at least twice across different meals at every visit. So if there's 5 dining areas, we'll do at least 10 meals, and that's looking across 60 different things at that meal experience, immersing with the residents, and then really landing on what performance, you know, the proportion, their performance at that site. So you can see that their performance in terms of their mealtime observations, the dining experience score, has gone up quite dramatically over that time. And we've recently been back on site to not only do another second round of champion training, but also hospitality training. But they've uplifted, they're at 95% in terms of each of their dining rooms are performing beautifully now. And that's kind of a fantastic kind of end result for residents and their experience. Another good metric when it comes to, are they nailing it, is their attendance to dining room is really high. And again, that's something that often, from one site to the next, can indicate if we're nailing it or not, or if people are staying in their room not wanting to engage. There's lots of reasons behind that, but if it's a large proportion, then something's got to be, we've got to look at sort of what's happening in that dining experience. This home, if we're getting into the clinical kind of metrics, and again, we measure every resident every time in terms of their nutrition status. So it's, looking at a whole lot of metrics to identify, are they nourished, moderately malnourished, or severely malnourished? So you can see at baseline, when we first started, this home in 2022 was 48% nourished. So that's on par with the national average within Australia. But what we know is when we're working with homes, malnutrition is absolutely reversible. Most cases, and I know that's a sweeping statement, but most cases are preventable, and certainly those cases that can be reversed, we show that reversing malnutrition is quite possible. So in the first 12 months, this home improved their nourished proportion by 20%, and they've gone on to, now they're around the 75% nourished. So that is fantastic. And as I said before, it takes 2 to 3 times longer to care for a resident who's malnourished. So there's lots of reasons, not only for the resident, but from a care staff and a caring point of view. There's lots of wins when we get malnutrition, we drop that malnutrition figure. This site also remarkably, when it comes to looking at just their long-term residents, because new residents come in, some residents pass away, and that changes figures from 6 months to another. But this site has shown ongoing significant improvement in their nourished residents, so residents improving in nutritional status. So when we usually look at published results, it's about 6%. Is what we'd expect over a 12-month period, whereas this home is in that first 12 months improved by 50% of the residents who were malnourished improved. That's remarkable, and again, that's just testament to say it is something that we can do something about, and getting that food, nutrition, dining experience right is a key part of that, including upskilling your team to kind of be onto it when it comes to, say, dining experience. But these are proactive measures, get results. This home's also shown, I'm looking at one metric here, we're looking at supplement spend. They've dropped their supplement spend by 97% over that 3-year period. That's translated for this home to a saving of just over $300,000. So quite remarkable. Again, there's other benefits. There's, with the clinical savings that they've had, but, from a cost point of view, there's savings at the blatant level of supplement spend. This is a bit wordy. I got a little wordy here, but consumer experience. So when we're capturing Explore App, there's a whole lot of metrics within every experience. But if we're looking at just the mood of the stories, the first 12 months got some really amazing results. We had a real reduction in negative experiences, those red stories on the graph, and an improvement in the yellow and orange, so the positive and very strongly positive experiences. Coming back again, most recently in May, what we can see is that they continue to have uplift in their strongly positive experiences, which is great. And when we look and start drilling into those experiences, as I said, it's capturing consumer experience, but you want to be able to go, well, what do we do with that? Like what are the insights as a whole at this site with this resident population at this point in time that actually we need to focus on? What we can tell through consumer experience that their prioritization in the previous 6 months, last 6 months, around protected mealtimes. So they've got rid of med rounds at mealtimes. They've focused more on the hospitality service, and they've shifted their menu across, has given that uplift. We know that that links with the increased strong positive experiences, but we can also see within the negative experiences, when we isolate and look at those experiences in depth, that for this specific site at this point in time, the patterns in their stories related to taste and flavor, particularly of the text modified meals. It was the negative stories were linking with the presentation, the visual presentation of the text modified meal, and also the quality of the meat. So, and that was probably more from a, looking at sort of cooking techniques within the team. So it gives us some points that we can go, if you're honing in on those, we're going to get further uplift, and we're targeting where it really matters and what we're feeling within the stories at this point in time. I've jumped a bit back to clinical again, but it's just if there's anyone clinical in the room, any kind of governance quality managers, what we can see, and again, this pattern continues, but we saw in the first 12 months with this home, their wounds halved. So the new wounds certainly halved. The wound nurse who had been there for a few years prior to us starting was blown away by the changes in the wound, what was happening with wounds when the site sort of began the process. So, these are things that translate to improved quality of life, less, staff interaction, less hospitals, less infections. All of these things translate to costs and improvements for the resident. And again, finally, if we're looking at some of the other metrics that, we look at and are important and link to resident quality of life, again, these residents in the first 12 months, we saw nearly a half in the number of falls, because a nourished resident is 8 times less likely to fall. So we had less falls. We also had 2/3 less hospital admissions. And again, the less time you're bouncing in and out of hospital, the better, again, in terms of quality of life. So there's like data, and this is just an example. We've been across a number of homes. We're seeing it across other homes. It's something that when you're measuring to manage, it's something that really can uplift. It's being able to kind of demonstrate our worth from a hospitality point of view when we're putting efforts in, and it's confirming the value of investing more in our space to be able to, let's strengthen kind of the catering teams. Let's not kind of divert. And, it's what we've seen the last few years is, obviously a bit of a prioritization around clinical. We're mandating nursing hours, and we're seeing cuts in hospitality as a result. But when we protect and invest in this space, what we're seeing is translations across the metrics that, we're having to report to government anyway. So as a summary, I guess the main kind of, we've always felt it, but sort of, from a hospitality point of view, what we're seeing now with the changes in reform is what we feel from a hospitality point of view is now being embedded in policy. So the new Aged Care Act, November 2025, is going to be a turning point for us. It also tells us that finally, I guess from a human rights and dignity and choice point of view, that, it's important. We are contributing to that very meaningfully with our food, nutrition, and dining experience. And I think it's sort of, it's a time, it gives us permission. We've got permission to start being, shining as we should, and elevating the importance of what we do in terms of hospitality. So I think overall, my message, and it's a joy again to be able to spend time with kindred spirits. We're singing from the same hymn book in terms of the importance of food, nutrition, dining experience. But I think where this is our time. It's important, and I think together, if we can look within our own organisations to be proactive, measure what matters, and really kind of, be beating our own drum around the importance and how it does impact across clinical, then I think we're really going to light the way forward together. So, apologies, that was like a long spiel without any interaction. I'm going to stop the share so I can actually see people. Hang on. Now, any questions? And Lisa, is it fair or safe to be able to, hang on, I'm just going to stop this so I can fully see you. Is it safe to verbalize questions, or are we best to
absolutely. Absolutely. If anyone has any questions, just unmute yourself and ask a question.
We've got a very polite, shy group, I think. Although I know a few of you are not so shy. Where are we?
So it doesn't look like we have any questions.
They're all going for an early mark home.
Yes, they are.
Which is fair enough. I know we all work pretty hard. Yeah, so I guess, happy if there's any questions offline. Certainly feel free to shoot me an email, or Lisa, or Kathy.
So Cherie, thank you so much for this. There's just a little message from Sharon. Thanks, Sharon. She said it was a great presentation. So thanks, Sharon. Sharon. Cherie, I really appreciated the presentation. My mum has just recently gone into an aged care facility, and one of the things for me is making sure that she's well looked after. Interesting enough, Mum is eating more than when she was at home. She's having dessert, and she's now taken up coffee again. Really interesting. Wow. And I suppose for me, one of the important things is when I've taken her down to the dining room is to see someone smile at her or smile at me. And, we're so fresh into this situation that it's that interaction of the food service staff is so important to the resident. And from my experience, their family, because it makes me feel at ease. And I will share with you a story about a person who wasn't one of the food service staff. They were one of the cleaning staff that I spoke to. I spoke to her just one random conversation, and a week later, she yells out, "Hi, Lisa." And that just made my day, and it made me feel so comforted. And I can just, in my head, I think how important our catering staff and our cleaning staff are in these facilities, and how they make the families feel as well as the residents feel. So that's just me sharing my experiences with everyone. So Cherie, I thought your presentation was amazing. We're getting lots of messages here about the presentation. Thank you so much for the time that you've put into this. We have recorded the session. It did go into record just a little bit late, but it will be available for everyone to get the recording. I just wanted to thank, we have, now I don't know whether they're still online, but we just had a lot of our supporters online, Dissolvable Labels, Delegate, Trump's, Nestle, Bega, PFD, Nutritious Cuisine, CFT, Bidfood, Thomas Catering, Texture Concept Food, And so, yeah, there was a lot of our supporters online. So thank you to all of them. Good afternoon, everyone. And I hope that you have a really good afternoon. You've got an extra 10 minutes in your day. So,
like a little thrill of early mark. You can have a cup of coffee in peace before you have to. Yeah.
So yeah, an extra 10 minutes in your day. So thanks so much, everyone. And
no, thanks a lot.
To catching up with you again.
Thanks a lot. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Cherie. That was great.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Lisa.
It was really good, Cherie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I think people would have enjoyed it, or obviously a few did there, I've noticed. Yeah.
No, I was Lisa, that comment, like your experience, it's just it doesn't cost anything. The smile and just acknowledging someone walking into a dining room, it's like if you've got to prioritize anything, it's just acknowledging someone, but to remember a name, it's that home and belonging, which is, quality standard 7, where the residential, that is going to be, these are things that make you feel like you belong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was in a fair bit of trauma. I was in a fair bit of trauma with my
yeah.
So for someone to acknowledge me and say hello, I just thought that was amazing.
Makes the day. And yeah, I mean, so it's those little things that completely, like that comment, the comment in the chat is around the little things. So
yeah,
it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
No, but thank you. And hopefully it's less traumatic as time goes on, Lisa, for you.
We are in a much better place. That was, we're 6 weeks in, so we're in a better place now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh. Well,
all right.
Well, have a good rest of the afternoon.
You too.
Yes, you too. And thanks for all your hard work. It was great.
That's fine. No, thanks for having me.
And we'll definitely keep in contact. And
excellent.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cherie.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.